My wife is refusing to accept our divorce after she came out as asexual, so she invited her best friend to our bedroom thinking she could meet my desires, but how wrong she was. My wife, 29 feet, and I, 34 meters, have been married for 4 years, and up until a year and a half ago, things were fantastic. Our marriage began to deteriorate after there was a significant drop in intimacy between us. We were still affectionate, just the actual smash part of the relationship stopped occurring. We would still cuddle and have deep, intimate moments talking and simply being around each other, but she kept rejecting my attempts to take things further past kissing. Now, we have never had issues with communication, so I made sure to address it early. We talked and made adjustments. We both made sure to stay in shape, tried being more adventurous, went to couples therapy and counseling, and even tested both of our hormone levels. Everything was normal. Each solution would work for a little while, but then we'd be back to having intimacy maybe once a month. I asked her several times if she was no longer attracted to me, but she denied it every time. I also asked if I was falling short in the relationship in any other way, to which she said no. About a month ago, she got back from her therapy session and told me that she believes she's asexual and that's the reason for her non-existent libido as of late. I was definitely confused because we had such great intimacy at the beginning of our relationship. Her telling me that she's now asexual was heartbreaking because everything else in our marriage is great. Obviously, I'm not going to force her to do anything, so we had a long conversation about our relationship, and I came to the conclusion that we should get a divorce. I say because she immediately rejected the idea, saying we would figure something out, and she refused to talk about it any further. I didn't know what to say, so I dropped it. 3 weeks went by, without any naughty business, and I decided I had to do this for my own mental well-being. So, I filed for divorce and had her served with the papers. Last week, when I got home from work, she was going about the day like nothing was wrong. I asked her if she had signed the papers, and she flat out said, "We are not getting a divorce," then changed the subject and acted like everything was normal. Obviously, I thought this was crazy, so I stopped her and said I couldn't be in a marriage devoid of intimacy. I also mentioned that I was being incredibly fair with the divorce. She can keep the house that we bought and paid for in cash. She paid 1/3, I paid 2/3, I'd take all of the debt, which isn't much, we'd split our savings and investments in half, and she could keep 2 of our 3 paid off cars. I only wanted my sports car. Thankfully, we don't have kids. I love her and wanted her to be comfortable, and I have no problem starting over since I make a good income. But she won't budge or even talk about the divorce. This brings us to 2 days ago. I got home, went to our bedroom, and found my wife's friend, 27 feet, naked in our bed. I immediately shut the door, said sorry, and went looking for my wife. I found her in the kitchen and asked what her friend was doing there. She said her friend was there for me. I put 2 and 2 together and told her that I wasn't going to have intimacy with another woman in place of the one I chose to marry. She was adamant, saying that I could sleep with her friend whenever I wanted and that her friend had agreed to it. I couldn't believe things had gone this far. I went back to our bedroom and asked her friend to leave. Then, I packed a bag and have been staying in a hotel nearby since that night. My wife, her mother, and her sister keep calling me, but I'm just not interested in hearing what they have to say. This feels like a trick. I just want this whole thing to be over. Is this some kind of ploy for alimony? We do have a prenup? Should I just contact my lawyer and try to force the divorce? I'm really uncomfortable with this entire situation. Update 1. Here's the update if anyone's interested. I'll try to keep this as concise as possible. I feel overwhelmed, so I probably won't bother with another update after this one. I don't know. My wife came to my hotel last night, and we talked about everything. She told me the full truth and what's been going on in her mind. A few of you commented this in the last post, and you were right. She has always been asexual. She and her whole family have known this since she was 16. Apparently, this is the reason why her last long-term relationship of 3 years ended. He broke up with her after their intimacy diminished to being non-existent after the first year. She told me that intimacy is easier for her in the beginning when emotions are running high, but she still has to force herself to have it. I knew they broke up due to irreconcilable differences, but I didn't ask for details, nor did she tell me. After a lot of apologies and crying, she told me that I was the first person she was able to tolerate intimacy with for so long and that she did enjoy it a handful of times. But after a while, she still felt like she wasn't truly consenting. I broke down after hearing this and started kicking myself for not catching on to any of it. She said she tried her best to please me as much as she could. She still doesn't want a divorce. She doesn't want the house, the cars, or the savings. She just wants me and is ready to do whatever it takes to keep me. She even said she would sign a postnup stating this. As for her friend, she was there during my wife's last breakup and helped support her through it. My wife went to her after I brought up divorce, and they talked things out. Her friend suggested opening the relationship for me, but my wife didn't want me sleeping with random women, so her friend volunteered to be the one I slept with. My wife thought this was a great idea, which led to the fiasco at our house. I won't comment on her appearance because it doesn't matter, and I don't blame the friend. My lawyer got back to me. You were all right, I don't need her permission, but I will have to wait if I want to push it through. I asked her why she lied to me this entire time, and she said she was tired of being rejected after revealing she was asexual. So, She convinced herself that she would be able to force herself to do things during the relationship. The hormone testing, the couples therapy, and all of our solutions were just her buying time, either to find another way around intimacy or to give herself enough time to build up the strength to start regularly doing it with me again. Our conversation ended with us holding each other in bed, crying for a couple of hours. No, we didn't have intimacy. She pleaded with me to hold off on the divorce so we could look for a solution together, then she left my hotel room. I'm now sitting alone, making this post. I guess I found out that we don't share everything with each other. Thank you to everyone who has messaged me directly. I'm still trying to get to all of them. I don't know what I'm going to do. Update 2. After my last update, my wife asked me to meet with her about a week later to discuss things. I've been staying at an extended stay hotel since that night with her friend. We met at our house and talked for a few hours. She started off with a ton of apologies for how she acted, for lying about her sexuality, and for not taking my intimate needs more seriously. Before I could say anything, she presented a signed post-nup agreement she had drafted with a lawyer, stating that she doesn't want anything, the house, the cars, the savings, everything. I felt like the biggest asshole for thinking she was trying to trick me for more money. I asked her if she was serious, and she told me to take the post-nup with me and sign it when I'm ready. I still haven't signed it, it's in my backpack. I told her that I still think divorce is the best course of action and that we both deserve to find someone who matches our needs. She still refused and borderline begged me to reconsider. She started crying, and so did I. Seeing her like this was devastating. I told her that finding other women for me to sleep with wasn't going to work. What if I developed feelings for them? What if I got one of them pregnant? Would we expect her to get an abortion? She said we'd figure it out as we go along and pleaded with me to give her more time to work on other solutions. She's set up appointments for intimacy and hormone therapy and is seeing a guru. I said that it sounds like we're going through the same things again, but she was adamant and begged me to wait. There were more apologies on both sides, and we kissed for a while before ending the conversation. Then I went back to my hotel that night. A few days later, I tried texting her, but she didn't respond, so I called her dad. I'm avoiding her mother and sister since they keep saying the same things as my wife. Her dad told me that she moved back home and has been holed up in her room since our talk. She even called out of work. He said she's barely eating, bathing, or talking to him or her mom. He asked me what I was going to do, but I didn't have an answer for him. He just said he understands and that he'd be there to talk anytime I needed to. So, I went back to our house, and a good portion of her stuff was gone. The whole place feels empty. I've been sleeping in one of the spare rooms. I'm planning on flying to my mother's house in a couple of weeks to spend time with my family and decompress from this entire situation. I'm still leaning toward divorce, but I guess there's no rush. Thank you to everyone for your insight and concern. Seriously, I know we're all strangers, but most of you have been a huge help to my mental health. Also, my cousin reached out after finding my last post. He asked me to give him a shout out if I made an update. Love you, Virgil, and thank you for being there for me. I think I'll just make a quick edit to this post once we reach a resolution for anyone who cares. Update 3. Hey everyone, in hindsight, I regret making these posts because I think I received too much advice. I keep thinking I should have just handled it internally with family. I don't regret my decisions, I just wish I had given myself more time to think. Anyway, here's the update. I'll keep it short. The divorce was finalized months ago. Our house was sold along with one of the cars, and my ex-wife is still living with her parents. I had a little more than 2/3 of the proceeds wired to her account, but the last time I talked to her dad, she hadn't touched a dime. I was informed that she checked into a mental health clinic, but I don't know how long she was there or what her current state is. I changed my number, but her dad has emailed me a few times to check on me throughout this last year, which breaks my heart because he's a great man. Him playing both sides of the fence really made everything go a lot smoother. Other than not warning me, which I honestly don't think was his place to do, he's been a huge help. I moved back to my home state to be closer to my family. I may leave for another state again, I don't know yet. I feel numb from this whole thing. I'm not much of a drinker, so I've been smoking a ton of pot and working out to occupy my mind. To everyone who didn't get a response from me in my messages, I'm sorry, there were just too many. I responded to as many as I could mentally handle. I think that's it. I can't imagine there would be any additional questions, but I'll answer whatever I can.